Hello. No. No, that's all right, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.